past 26, 27 years, as a result of what took place at Mount Carmel in 1993, those of us that are survivors have, most of us anyway, have come face to face with being bombarded by the media, and especially if you live out at Mount Carmel or tend to speak out on a regular basis, the media make a beeline to approach you for just about everything they're doing, you know, whether it's to get a reaction to something or whatever. And a lot of them come across as aggressive. A lot of them have impressed me that they were prejudiced. They, you know, had their minds made up as to our guilt, you might say, but what I've learned to take into consideration is they're all working for a boss. The head of the news department, or the head of the TV channel, or the radio, or even the newspaper. All of these people that are sent out to cover a story may write, some of them may write a really good article or do a good interview, but when it goes back to you know, to the studio or somewhere, it gets chopped up in the presentation for the news or for whatever program it is. And that's because the people that run these news stations or these newspapers, they've all got their preferences. They've got their political bias, their religious convictions, or whatever. And so you find with a lot of news people that if you try to answer a question and give a biblical backup to it, or try to explain it from the scriptures, they tend to get a little irritated. They want you to forget all the biblical stuff and just give yes or no answers. They like sound bites, and you know, you can't really give straight answers in the sense of explaining your beliefs or why you did certain things. Just that doesn't go through with a yes or no answer. People don't understand. So that's one of the things that I've had to not only take into account, but to try to get across that it's not all about sound bites. It's all about why we did what we did, or why I think the way I do, or believe the way I do. And so, like I said, there are some reporters that are very good. What I've found in the past is if you get a reporter that's sympathetic or really interested in writing the story as you present it, if that doesn't go over well with the editors or their bosses back at the station, they get into trouble. And you know, like during the siege, the ATF and the FBI were giving morning briefings to the press, and from what I've heard, any of them that asked what we'd call important questions, or you know, slightly off what they were trying to get across, so the way they were presenting it, their credentials were pulled and they weren't allowed to show up the next day. They were forbidden to be part of that. And so over the years, I've run into many reporters that have told us, you know, this is, their bosses have told them, don't cover this story. We want you to drop it. Just let it go, you know. They basically got the attitude, well, enough already, it's all these years or whatever. But, you know, it takes a pretty brave reporter to do a little digging and a little research to find out whether the government's telling it straight, factually, or whether the people that are the victims have a better handle on it, or at least from their point of view, they know what they saw and what they experienced and so forth. And so everybody that looks at media need to keep that in mind, that there is two sides to a story, and just because one of them is ruled by a TV station or a government agency doesn't mean that they're necessarily giving it to you factually or truthfully. And so I admonish all reporters to put the effort into digging and finding out for themselves. You probably get a lot of flack for that. You get into trouble with your bosses. They may fire you, or they may ship you off to Alaska or somewhere to cover, you know, milking cows or yaks or something. But as far as you know, there's very few news agencies, the big ones anyway, that really want to know the truth. They're out there for a story. They're out there, like I say, for sound bites, to create a, you know, they want you to perform sort of thing. They want you to confirm what they already think they've figured out. So that's why they want you to say yes or no. And some of them are even skilled enough in the Bible to know that that's what the Bible says. Let your answer be yea or nay. And I agree with that, except it needs explanation, you know. And so I noticed in the last year or so that a lot of reporters have come at me for an interview with this new phrase, oh, we're doing a 360 report or a 360 show. And I'm saying, well, what does that mean to you, you know? All that means we want to get everybody's opinion, the whole circle, you know, all sides. And I says, well, that may sound like a fair deal. That might sound good to you. I says, but if you are in the minority, if you're a victim, if you're an odd person, you know, and they get your interview, and then they've got all your, the agencies or the people that are against you, you know, a dozen of them, then it's all unbalanced. It's not a fair interview, or at least in conveying it to the public, it doesn't come across as fair because you're outnumbered. You know what I'm saying? People all think, oh well, look, take the bulk of the interview, bulk of the information, and it doesn't mean because you got more people saying it that it's more right than only one person saying something. So I think the audience or the public need to look at the way things are done in media. If you've never been involved in anything to where the media took an interest in you, probably doesn't bother you. If you've been on the receiving end of prejudice or a hatchet job, you know, somebody going after you and accusing you of something you haven't done or whatever, then it's a different story. And so you have to kind of become as wise as a serpent, and you can still be as harmless as a dove, but you've got to learn the tricks of the trade, you might say, to know how to deal with some of these people, because like I say, many of them do come out with an agenda. They want you to look stupid, or they want you to be embarrassed, or they want you to perform, you know. And I told one TV station up in New York one time, I said, I'm not here to perform. I'm not here to do tricks or put on a show of being angry or excited or jumping up and down. I said, if you got questions, I'll do my best to answer them. But I'm not here to put on a show, you know. And so, but that's what most people are groomed and brought up to expect, you know, like game shows. They see the audience getting all excited. They're all being prompted to do that. Applause, jump up and down, you know, and as a part of being there. If you're not willing to do that, then you're not allowed in the audience. You've got to play this game the way they want to play it. And so that's the way it is with the news a lot of times. And another thing that the public needs to pay attention to is listen to every story that comes even from the media. You can have a report of a shooting at 9 o'clock in the morning, and everything they tell you is totally changed by 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, personally, I don't think a reporter should make a report until he's got the facts. You don't interpret things, you shouldn't jump to conclusions. You shouldn't just take what the police or one eyewitness saw. You know what I'm saying? Put the whole package together and get the facts, get it straight, and then deliver it to the public. You don't have to tease them for 3 and 4 days to try to figure out what are we hearing, what are we being told, what are they really doing. You know, it gets a little aggravating to me.